Good. Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us tonight on kind of a new thing on Zoom, which is a uh, not exactly public, but all you guys invited to a Zoom conversation about 2025 astrology, and I think and I hope more than the astrology, what the astrology is about, what it's about collectively, and more importantly, what it's about personally. Though it seems pretty rough out there right now. It seems rough in terms of the conduct of those those in the White House, but all throughout the government, including the courts. And there are a lot of people cheering this on, and it is a tremendous external distraction, I think, from the possibilities at hand right now that we have. The like churny, messy part of the astrology from a collective standpoint has barely begun. Uh, the uh, the energy has not moved into Aries. We still have about another month of a lot of Pisces, and then bit by bit, Sun and Saturn and Neptune move into Aries, which is a whole other flavor than we have been used to for a long time, particularly with an ultra slow mover like Neptune changing signs, and a slow mover like Saturn changing signs. We're going to notice this, and the the confusion seems to be about a lot of bad behavior of very powerful people, and also a lot of people who are confused about that bad behavior. But none of this is true. Actually, everything that we are seeing, including this conversation, is happening in the digital realm, or is being caused on Earth as a result of complete overabsorption of the digital realm. I try to have this conversation with people, for example, pitching podcast ideas to them, and and it's like not really that well understood. The whole program of last week's Planet Waves FM, what is digital doing to men? We're going to get to women next time, along with the complete, like, essentially disemboweling of what a person is, came as a result of correspondence with two different men's advocacy podcasters who were not interested in the issue, because maybe it didn't seem obvious to them. And I know from the way that McLuhan's ideas were received or not received in the 60s and 70s when they were first available, people can get a little offended by them. But I think that for those who think that this is all about ideology, to say that really no, we're just having some kind of a chaos effect associated with overexposure to technology that in some ways is absolutely wonderful, is it's not intuitive. And it's partly because the tide has risen so slowly, and in human time it seems slowly. It's taken place over about 35 years of people being exposed in their homes, initially minimally, and then more. It was gamers and hobbyists, as Bill Gates once called them, hobbyists. And then suddenly there was a computer in every house. Then there was a computer in every room, and then there was one in everybody's pocket. And if you're wondering why things are so insane, you don't really need to look much past that. But if you look at that, you're looking at something pretty difficult to address. And the reason this is an astrological topic is, well, I would think that in any era, the astrologers would be wondering, like, wow, what's going on now? How do the events of the times we're living in match up the events of the charts that we're seeing. And one of the topics I've long been interested in was, what did astrologers in the 1960s think of the 1960s? And I don't really have access to too many astrology journals, but I look every time I can find one. And it seems like Dane Rudhyar was the one commenting on it, and he got some things right, but he was incredibly optimistic about the Uranus Pluto conjunction, and really didn't get the dark underbelly of that, the assassinations and COINTELPRO spying on everyone and doing their best to turn the movement leaders against one another, and to break up the movement leaders' families in various ways. And so he's very the one extended article I read, I was extremely Pollyanna, and I I have no evidence that astrologers today actually understand the connection between the astrology and what is going on. But in my long study of the history of media, which goes back to the Gutenberg Bible, right? Really, the first major change in media that we had was in the I think the 1450s, a time very much like now, with Uranus, rather Chiron Eris conjunction going on in Aries, as the Gutenberg press is basically printing a lot of Bibles. That worked out great. And then every time you look at a major upheaval in media, particularly telegraph era has a lot of Aries going on, and then the the radio era has huge amount of Aries going on, and then this pattern continues all the way into the digital era, where you see an explosion of Aries, and then there's some massive change in the media environment. But most people have not figured out the extent to which they are shaped, the way our characters are shaped, and we become different people. I mean, it's kind of like the God you worship. If you worship an angry, vengeful God, you're going to become angry and vengeful. If you worship a loving God and you believe that God is love, and you wake up every morning and you say God is love, you're going to live in a loving frame of mind, even if things don't go so lovingly all the time. And the problem is that we are worshiping a God that we do not know is a God, that is omnipotent and omniscient and can see everything. And this is probably, well, we're going to publish it, so it will then be consumed by artificial intelligence, and feed into those databases as everything that you're doing on the internet. And this is completely shaping who we are, and we have not copped to the fact that we've been completely taken outside of ourselves, and that the robot is in charge. And I see most of this going on in Aries, and then there's the complementary Pluto in Aquarius, because Aquarius has a lot to do with social patterns and the way social patterns are influenced under the thrall of technology. And the question is, where does this leave people who want to be people, who want to be human? And I'm telling you that we are in the last gasp of clinging to our humanity, because the digital natives, essentially the people born in the late 20th and then through to the 21st century, don't really know what it was like for us to live without all the surveillance, and without all the devices, and without being tracked everywhere, and without having to text 45 times to set up a lunch date, and without all of the things that are really dragging us down and transforming us into robotic people. The people who are born into the robot cannot possibly know the difference, and it is we whose lives straddle a significant portion of the 20th century, who remember, and who remember what a pencil is and what a postcard is. And that may not seem very important. It may not seem very significant, but I think that it is. So anyway, that is my take on like kind of why I'm working so hard on this issue, and putting out a consistent stream of viewpoint and demonstration. And I'm here tonight to answer any questions you may have about the awakening. I think I've got all 12 of these things. If I don't, I'll just improvise with a neighboring sign. And then I've got other charts ready to talk about some of those things. For example, you can see my fabulous chart cam, the new innovation, so we can actually see the chart. And then we can look out at the street in Kingston. All right, so I believe Diana Austin had raised her hand. Add spotlight. I'm going to add spotlight. We're going to unmute you and unmute. Grr. Diana, would you unmute yourself, please? We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
All right. Nice impressionistic view of you.
I was going to say, I'm really fuzzy. I don't do that on purpose.
No, but it still looks good. It's like soft focus.
Yeah, it's real soft focus. My goodness gracious. All right. Well, I guess one of my questions would be, moving into this new digital age, how do you propose, if you want to have a business or if you want to interact with people, how do you do it in a way that doesn't just feed into this whole problem? Like for me, as you know, I have a farm, okay, and I do very traditional things, and there's a lot of knowledge for that. But it seems like everyone who does this has to get a YouTube channel. And then when they get a YouTube channel, they are now a slave to the channel, where they have to have content continuously, never ending, ad nauseum. And
Yeah.
then besides content, they have to have shorts, because 15 minutes is too much. They have to condense it into an 8-minute short or a second short. And it totally turns on its head what it started out to be, if that makes any sense.
Well, trust me, I know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm a writer. I know how to do darkroom. I'm a photographer. I could get all the way from like my camera to a print in the darkroom all by myself, black and white. I like doing hand layouts. I have a cutting board on my desk as a memorial. I cut on it sometimes. So I miss the analog world, and Eli helps me with all these freaking video channels. And now you don't need to, you have to not only have YouTube, you have to have the other major
Right, Rumble
podcasting
and
channels. The
yeah,
audio's got to go up all over the
Instagram.
place. It's ridiculous. And I think that for someone doing what you're doing, probably being a minimalist would be better. You don't need to use every feature. By the way, my camera's up here and the monitor's down here. So if you see me looking somewhere else, I'm actually looking at you. So you have a lot of earthly grounded responsibilities, right? You've got horses and cows and chickens and right, am I right?
Yeah, actually, the cows were in the middle of the road today, so I wasn't even sure if I was going to
Right.
make
Now
it.
you couldn't just round them up with your mouse, right? You couldn't you couldn't control go back into your little stalls.
Yeah, it would be nice.
No, it's not happening. Um, so I would do as little as possible. You don't really need to do that much. You need to have a presence. I think your website needs to accurately reflect your hours. I think it should have contact information. I think it's nice to have your name and a picture on a website. And for you, you're not trying to monetize a YouTube channel, just to keep it as casual as possible.
Yeah.
And so therefore to keep in the human realm. There's other businesses that require an audience, like a non-local audience. Mine is one of them. It's hard. It's hard. I don't understand how these channels that get the traffic they do
So,
get that traffic. I'm continuously amazed, and I miss the human realm. I miss a world where my clients would come and sit in my office. When I set up this office, I set up the room as a consulting. It's still set up as a consulting room. That was only like 11 years ago that I set up an office with a consulting area. It's cozy consulting area. Anybody who got sat down there wouldn't want to leave. But I've probably maybe I've done 5 consultations in person. So also, I think we have to grasp the before and after 2020. I didn't know what Zoom was in 2020. I just found out in 2020. And in the process of finding out, I found out that it was bigger than all, worth more money than all the US airlines combined. I mean, have we all been on a 747? Those things ain't cheap, and they're not cheap to fly. And to think that this little gadget is worth more than all the, airlines in the United States combined is incredible. And so we went into a radically impersonal world where people were tested out, flashing their QR code to get onto the Brown campus and the Columbia campus and the SUNY campus and every place else. And so there's a massive, massive point of demarcation in 2020 when a huge amount of our humanity was taken away from us. And I think we are all still reeling from the shock of that. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
It's like everything just sped up from that time onward.
Yeah, very, very rapidly. Um, and so, the digital world is part of it. I mean, the way that I deal with it, and I'm in it almost all the time, is I put a lot of love out. I do things that are beautiful. I make everything I do beautiful. I realize I'm talking to an individual person whenever I speak, whenever I do my program or my podcast or my new Blue Studio series on Saturday night. I know that I'm talking to one person who's listening because in some way they are interested or curious or need to be hearing what I'm saying. And some people just listen to my voice because it calms them down. So I'm well aware that I'm speaking to human people and hopefully their dogs and cats and horses. So, anything else on your mind?
No, I'm sorry. I look like I'm underwater. I really didn't do that on
It's a
purpose.
cool. It's actually a cool look.
Cool.
Speaking as a connoisseur of video channels now, like studying, just to get this modest little set working right, I had to do a lot, figure
Yeah.
out how to
Well,
get it
I
to
don't know.
work.
I'm sunk in the digital age because I can't even get my Zoom meeting to look normal. So whatever.
It's your camera, by the way. It's just,
Probably.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
just
know
your
what that
camera's a
is.
little old. All right, who else is? I'm going to put you back into the peanut gallery. Remove from spotlight, but feel free to raise your hand. And if I don't notice you raising your hand, just wave frantically. All right. Who's got thoughts to share, questions to share? We hopefully have enough people to keep this going. Where's that? Janet, where's good old Janet Willis? Here you go, Janet. Gonna add you to the spotlight.
I,
Hi there. Speak up.
I,
There you go.
yeah, your voice has created calm in my body for.
Oops, no, I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So, thank you for the calm.
Your mic is not connecting very well. There's something a little weird about the somewhere.
Let's see.
That
Maybe
now it's working.
is that
When
better?
you lean forward, it works, and when you don't lean forward, it crackles.
Okay. Um, as a body worker, I'm a massage therapist. 30 some odd years, learning a ton about the fascia system right now, the fiber fluid matrix. And when I listen to anything that's about like the galactic web of the universe and the way it was formed, that's language is exactly the same as when I'm learning from my fascia teachers about the web inside of our own bodies and that connection. And now there's scientific tools so we can measure it, see it, look at it. So now it has more proof. Um, the ancient and the sages have known about the information channels that the fascia has provided in our body, and now science is letting everybody kind of know and see that more. So I see the explosion of information, just it's quantum. Um, and um, I'm and at the same time I'm watching how my Yahoo.com mail account is like listening to me more, and like just every part of my whole, I don't know how much my whole house is completely bugged by owning a phone and having some Bluetooth speaker and
Alexa.
yeah, so just even the plain old Bluetooth speaker was like picking, and I'm like, okay, that thing's when
Just
it's
a
not,
Bluetooth speaker, just an ordinary blue can
it
hear.
was it was like beeping and plugging and like, oh geez, that thing is listening over there, and so um yeah, I'm curious about like one, I don't know, are you familiar with the fascia? Are you
Well,
familiar with,
I know what they are.
well, it's becoming more and more understood because what we've known about it is like the language is even changing in the last month. The language that we knew about fascia has shifted. It's changing so much because we're learning so much about it, and it's a fiber fluid matrix. It's basically the soup we swim in
Fiber
terms.
fluid. So it's a layer between the muscles, right?
It's more than that. That's how we used to old times describe it or understand
Okay,
it.
well, I'm not up to date then.
Yeah, so it's
I'm
it's
so
like,
last week.
yeah, yeah. So it's literally like describing the sea in which the fish swims in. You don't have a fish unless you have an ocean or a sea or a water that it swims in. And so our fascia is the fluid, and it's fibrous and fluid, and it has tensile strength and flowability, if that's a word, um, to morph. Like we can flow and acquiesce, and it's a system that communicates 20 times faster than the nervous system, and it's our throughout our whole body. We will begin to see it as a complete system that we have not understood. It's not in any of my anatomy and textbooks from 30 years ago, and not even 10 years ago, but now you're going to start to understand it as a system, just like the lymphatic or so it is a fiber fluid matrix, and it communicates, it hears, it's light emitting, it's light absorbing. The fascia system is that part of us that I understand of, who's at the door before you open the door, who's on the phone before you pick it up, that part of us, it's listening, it gets every pulse of the universe that we live inside of, and then we are transmuting out. So it's the milieu of it, of us inside of this little sack of flesh that we are walking around in. And I'm just curious of it because it's being impacted by, whatever wavelengths and such that are, we are always being listened to, and we are always listening. I don't know if I'm making much
Yeah,
sense.
I mean the internet is a really crude metaphor
Hmm.
for what's already true,
Yeah.
and the problem is it's really not that impressive, and it's also in a way it puts people in a spiritual state that they're not ready for. I think in the ability to astral project. I mean, I would not want everyone to have that ability, and there's a readiness for that ability. When I was living at Miracle Manor, I had my own room, but then I would at some point come into my girlfriend's room right next door, and she kept channeling my poems. And by that I mean that I would write the poem and put it in a closed diary on the shelf. There was no way that she could get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and rummage through the books on my shelf and find that particular poem that I had written just hours before. And I would like wake up in bed and there'd be an envelope in the bed with the poem scribbled on the. This happened several times, and it happened long distance as well.
Mhm.
But that was, I think, entirely based on spiritual preparation. We were there to do the spiritual work and to experiment with the idea that there are no private thoughts, and that is not all of these electrical devices spying on us. There's a
Mhm.
whole different thing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that is a whole different thing. And I mean, there's a bit of electrocution to it. There's a touch of electrocution to it.
Mhm.
One of the creepiest charts I've got is the chart for the first electrocution. I've got a whole file of creepy charts, and that really that's right up there with the Reichstag fire. It may be creepier than the Reichstag. They're both pretty creepy. But the thing with the first execution is you can see what they're doing. You can see that they're using electricity to shock the person out of their body. That's what electrocution is. There's a picture somewhere of the little chair. It looks like a chair in the library, only it's an electric chair. It's not very fancy.
Mhm.
Everyone's just milling around. And that's what basically is happening to us. We're being electrocuted out of body by all of this technology. Uh, and it is one thing to be shocked out of body, and it's another thing to come back into your body thinking that you're still out of body and acting like you're still out of body, and acting like nothing in body matters except death. That was 2020. They shocked us out of body and they convinced us our bodies were capable of only one thing, which was death. That's the C word.
Mhm.
And this is the insanity. So I'm very curious about this muscle fascia system, this fascia system. So at some point, if you know how to find me, please email me some stuff. I mean, is this coming out of cranial sacral training or Rolfing training, or what's
Well,
the
a
like
lot
what
of, yeah, a lot of Rolfers understand the fascia system, because that's sort
they're
of the,
working with it?
yeah, to come, all body workers are working with it,
But I mean,
every,
Rolfers seem to be doing it intentionally. Like the point of Rolfing seems to be to move around the muscle relative to the fascia. At least that's how it was explained to me. I don't know if that's
right,
accurate.
right, right. Yeah, it's really quite, it's far more involved now, so yeah, I'm glad to send you information on, because I'm just, as a body worker, I'm putting my hands on people's bodies and just work, like, you know how do I, your voice at night when I listen is, helping me ground out, or
Mhm.
helping me just sort of like tether on, versus spin off the earth right now. But
Well, happy to
so
happy to
anyway,
serve in that way.
yeah. So yeah, the fascia is a really brilliant part of us, and it's communicating. We're communicating through our fascia system all day
Mhm.
long. So
Mhm.
it's sort of the precursor, I think, to.
Got it. Well, listen, the more I know and the more I understand, the sooner I'll be able to write about it. So
Great.
get my attention, please.
Yeah,
Any,
but
any
thank
other
you.
thoughts? Any other thoughts?
Uh, no, I'm excited to hear other folk on the
All
um
right.
video, but it's
Good.
nice to meet you in
All
person.
right, Janice.
Yeah.
Bye for now. Nope. Cancel. Okay. Anybody got their hand up? Somebody's got to say something. Paul Melzer.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Are you picking me up?
Oh wait, whose mic is
Manisa?
open?
This is Manisa. I couldn't get my hand up.
Uh,
Chat?
hold on.
There.
So let me. I know everything's
Tap here to
complicated.
chat. Okay, I
Chat's a
know. I
spotlight.
know. There we go.
All right, Manisa. Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a question for Miss oh who was just up? I lost all the pictures. Um, I had there was an intriguing comment you made about communication and communicating with my next question would be who and what. You can expand it from there and ask what are we talking about when we talk about communicating with uh, ourselves and what other realms would you care to discuss and bring into the meeting and the conversation now? And um, because I do feel like, gosh, I've lost my picture on here. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I don't need to look at myself. Um, I do feel that we are in an evolutionary at an evolutionary cusp right now of consciousness and of very many different things that each one of us are conscious of, and it's changing all of the time. And the consciousness threshold that we are on the cusp of is so much more elegant and evolved. So then the what we've been talking about, the electronics and so forth, and the electronics I see as a boost and an encouragement to smarten up and wise up and start to do it more ourselves, and with ourselves, and then with the Mother Earth, the Father, Sky, Sun, nature, because virtually what we all have in common that comes into our world comes from the intelligence of the Mother Earth and the Father, Sky, Sun. You got my background now. And we have not been making it with the Mother Earth the way that we should and could. And the Father, Sky, Sun. Because the Father, Sky, Sun is the big computer in the sky that is downloading information to us all the time. And we get it all the time, but we don't always know that we get it. But that inspiration, that light bulb that goes off is a freewheeling inspiration that's floating around in the ethers. And then sometimes we actually get the information that comes in and are conscious of it, of exactly coming from the great computer, if you want to call it, in the sky, which is so much more than that. But I feel like that's where we are headed. And I am full of trepidation about the pitfalls of this whole thing that's going on, and the opportunities of manipulation and control and management and lies and truth and whatever the shades of those are. But I really think that this is the gauntlet's thrown down for each one of us to say, okay, who am I and what am I going to do, and sort it. I guess that's where I would wrap it up right now. If anyone would like to take it from there, I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, if
Thank you,
it seems
Eric.
like, thank you. It seems like electrical and digital in particular take people out of themselves. So it seems like there's less asking who am I than ever before, and there wasn't really that much, and now there's all kinds of false answers.
Right.
Rapidly, immediately available to satisfy the quest with potato chips.
Right.
So how is that helping?
Well, it's helping because some of us are going to, I feel, are kind of getting to the point where we realize we got to figure ourselves out and get connected with the core information that we all share, which is breath, life, breath, basically, and being breathed alive in a living world, wherein all of the information is available in our world, and for many, many different reasons, and for so long, it's been inhibited or stepped on, or history of one kind or another. We've all fallen prey to taking some very shortcuts and living a very, more or less unconscious life because we really didn't need to think about too much a
Right.
lot
I'm
of the
not
times.
understanding where, for example, artificial intelligence, where you can ask a question, it makes up a whole answer for you, is helping or even encouraging anyone to think.
Well, we're going to have to come to that ourselves.
But how do you know if you haven't? You follow what I'm saying here?
I think
it's
so.
not even really a paradox. If the goal is to have people be more self-aware, I'm not sure how these tools that seem designed to obscure self-awareness, and they certainly have that effect. There's no more private self. What you read in Planet Waves is the content stream is the continuation of my private diaries. It is my private diaries, which I've got a whole file cabinet drawer full of them, which I kept copiously when I was younger. It is that became my most public life. So I'm sharing from the deepest inner core of my existence. And
Here I am.
unfortunately, I know myself well enough to have places to hang out, but there are times when I feel like I'm sleeping in a room without a roof. And in fact, but there's a skylight above my bed that reminds me that my thoughts are a portal out to the universe. Now, I had mapped this out pretty well before the internet. As I said, a lot of experiences at Miracle Manor and things like that. But I would not be feeling very good if I didn't have my many different points of grounding. So I'm concerned. I mean, you wouldn't want to give LSD to a 10-year-old, right? Have you ever dropped acid?
No.
You ever taken mushrooms?
Well, I did once, and it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, would you
It
want to give
wasn't,
that to a 10-year-old?
no.
Right. So the one of the and I know I refer to McLuhan a lot, but he seems to be the only person with a clue. His name has got the word clue in it. So we'll keep the clue in McLuhan. He said that computers are LSD for the business community. Now, at the time, there were only computers in the business community, and have very high reaches of academia and government. And then they start to show up. Does anyone remember Mad Men when they put the computer in the writer's lounge and the one guy chops his nipple off? He's starting to have a psychotic break, and he responds to the computer. This is so brilliant. Uh, I'm amazed that it even made it in, but he responds to the computer coming into the ad agency by amputating part of his body and giving it to who's the girl is Fred Armisten's wife. She was the new girl in the office. She was a secretary. She became a writer. Amputation. Now, back to the LSD part. What he observed was, and how did McLuhan know what LSD was? He was a professor in the '60s, and he went to all the parties where everybody dropped acid. I would bet all my money that he never dropped acid, but that he had a great time hanging out with everybody else who was high as a tree, and studied them. And so he knew what it was, and he knew what it did because they were taking it at all the high society parties in the mid 1960s. They had Sandoz's pharmaceutical, they had the real thing, and so he knew what he was saying when he said that people respond to a computer like they're on LSD. And now the children all have them. And the frightening thing is that people who have tripped usually know that they're tripping. They know that they took that sugar cube or something, or they know when the punch has been spiked, even if they don't do it intentionally. The problem with our society is we don't realize that we're high on acid, and we're responding to things as if we are high on acid. And so it is so rapidly expanding of consciousness that there's almost no containing it. And the response to this technology is to amputate. We're seeing this with the whole trans situation. If you don't think of the trans situation as a sexual thing, and you think of it as just a human thing, what you would see is a lot of amputation going on. Top surgery, bottom surgery. Why are people suddenly getting the urge to amputate? This wasn't a thing when we were younger. If this were some innate thing in the human race, they would have been records of it in Egypt and ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and the Jews would have written it down, and so, would have been written about throughout medical literature. But suddenly, under the influence of the internet, people are amputating their body parts voluntarily. That's what's going on. And if you're not amputating body parts, you're amputating parts of your psyche. Because the digital fog is about extending and cutting off. You extend. Oh, wow. I'm chatting with 50 people, having a phone call. Oh my God, this is so intense. What did I say? I sounded so stupid. Boom, cut off. So there's a lot of extending and cutting off going on. It's really quite incredible. And that, look, not everyone is made to be this exposed. Right?
Right.
I'm perfectly
Right.
comfortable. I know exactly who I am. Situation permitting, there's nothing I wouldn't do, but or say, right? So it's purely what the traffic will bear. But I know who I am, and I was prepared for a public life when I was fairly young, very gently, very incrementally. First as a writer, then as a photographer, and the process was slow, and the articles took months to write, and you had, it would take 2 hours fast if you were fast to make a photograph. People are now being thrust into a kind of 15 minutes of world fame all the time. They're not emotionally ready for it. So this is a question I never hear anyone asking. Are people emotionally prepared to be doing this? What about a million erotic presenters? Translate that to prostitutes on OnlyFans. A million? There's 2 million presenters on OnlyFans. The company estimates half of them are erotic presenters. What is leading a million? And then the people pay for this because it's all they've got, or it's all. We don't even understand our problem. And I think we need to not be vaguely optimistic about the situation, despite the fact that you all see me doing the good, loving work that I do. But I have to, if you see me for an hour, I've prepared emotionally like 23 hours for that 1 hour. That's not most of what's going on. So I would just volley it back to you to contemplate and ask yourself how this is enhancing our connection to the earth. If someone can explain it, I'd be happy to hear that. Anyway, any other thoughts, Manisa?
Well, you serve to sensitize all of us, each one of us, to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the tool, we are the element to connect with the fiber fluid fascia that's in us, that is connecting with the peas that we ate, with the air that we breathe, with the light that we take in, the color, the sound, the music. Uh, uh, you know, yeah, the prophecies have had the planet go down a couple of times in the past because we were found not worthy to live, and
Not worthy to live.
right, because we didn't do the work of being a
Right.
human being alive in a living world. We didn't do it. We didn't take the time. We didn't care. We didn't respect it. We didn't honor it. We didn't have personal ceremonies. We don't have to have large collective ceremonies. All we have to do is get up and greet the sun and let the sun go down and be aware of our breath, that we're breathed alive in a living world. It's all around us. And we just have, it's a big call. It's a big step up call. And it's one that is present and available to us at every second, at every turn, with every breath. because it's all being made available to us. And we're a work in progress, humanity and people are as individuals and collectively. And the majority of us, if not all of us, you might say, are living under conditions, collective conditions, historical conditions of great trauma and it's well, just things that happen to everyone, and we're all clearing that. It's taking up a lot of our bandwidth or whatever it is of the information that has happened in the past to humanity that we're still reacting and responding to consciously in some cases, but mostly unconsciously. We're still in survival mode.
Right. Okay, let's hear if there's any other comments on this. And I'm going to put you back to the peanut gallery. Let's see if I know how to do this. Control, command, which, no, now I'm looking, now we're in theater view. Okay, did that work? I guess it worked. I know I mark the beginning of full digital conditions with Y2K. So Y2K, there were a series of events in well, that's Y2K is 2000, between early 2000 and late 2000, and then the 9/11 incident was the manifestation. So Y2K was a computer incident. The symbol of the stolen election of 2000, if you don't recall, was the guy with the computer code, the famous photo by Alan Diaz, looking at a computer card. So right before all that happened, Conversations with God Book 3 came out, and I haven't read this, but I've had friends who read it. And my girlfriend Maria loved it, and she shared some quotes with me, and this is where I got this one. So God, whoever God was, speaking to Walsh, says, "As I have said, this isn't the first time your civilization has been at this brink. I want to repeat this because it's vital. I want to repeat this because it's vital that you hear this. Once before on your planet, the technology you developed was far greater than your ability to use it responsibly." And by the way, he's not hip to the fact that we become like our technology, but he continues, "You're approaching the same point in human history again. It's vitally important that you understand this. Your present technology is threatening to outstrip your ability to use it wisely." He does say this. "Your society is on the verge of becoming a product of your technology." Sorry, God. That's your whole point. Rather than the technology being the product of your society. When a society becomes a product of its own technology, it destroys itself. Now, we've always been shaped by our tools, right? Once humans had a weapon, an arrowhead, a hatchet, right? You have a knife, you cut up a carrot. We're shaped by our technology. We're shaped by our evolutions. You do yoga, you're shaped by your yoga. That's a technology. So it doesn't quite admit that much that in the age of the book, we're shaped by the book. In the age of the scroll, we're shaped by the scroll, and the hieroglyphics and so forth. But he's saying there's a responsibility question. I mean, to me, the internet, it often seems like a big mass shooting going on. So who gives a 14-year-old kid on antidepressants an AR-15? Would anybody in their right mind do that? So now all the 14-year-olds have the media equivalent of an AR-15. Paul, is your video on? Yeah. Yes. Is that actually Mac McGee? Burr, add spotlight. It is
Hey,
you.
how are you?
Good. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Good. What's on your mind?
So I think, all things are perfect timing. And for the, I'm speaking right now with a Sagittarius, Mercury in the eighth house, pretty close to the great attractor. And I just finished this book, just got done reading it. Y'all see that?
Hmm.
Right. So it's backwards. So it's the Yuga shift, the end of the Kali Yuga, and the impending planetary transformation. And it's by a gentleman by the name of Bibhu Dev Misra. And what is so interesting about me reading this book now and having a lot of study and experience with the Yuga system and with my Jyotishi out in California studying the Yugas, is that the end of the Kali Yuga, which was understood to be occurring many, many more years down the road, Misra has completely put that date on its head. And the end of the Kali Yuga, the Kali Yuga is, for those who need to know, is the age of darkness. And it's materiality and greed and misuse of power and all the things that we're seeing in our world. And the end of the Kali Yuga happens to be March 25th of 2025. And so here we are sitting on the precipice. You talk about standing on the bridge. In terms of the zeitgeist, it's changing and it's going to start to change over the next 300 years to the Dwapara Yuga, which we're already seeing the transition into what's called Dwapara, the electrical age. And as I'm listening to all of us speak, I hear us as those who are straddling the way we grew up, the past from which we come, and we're looking into the future, kind of scratching our heads, going, how in the world are we going to get through this? How's the world going to get through this and survive, right? And Anissa, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Manisa spoke about the return to Mother Nature. And so Misra writes a lot about that in terms of each of the societies, the spiritual traditions all over the world have their mythologies about those societies in the past that Eric knew much more, had much more understanding and very, very advanced technologies and knowledge that have been lost over time as the Yuga system, all those cycles have transpired over thousands and thousands of years. And we are coming into a time where a lot of the Yuga characteristics of greed and materiality and all of the darkness is getting purged. And it's just starting. It hasn't even barely started. And James Kelleher writes about the fact that, over the next 300 years, shit's going to really hit the fan in terms of the purging of those characteristics in order to get human beings to return ultimately to the simplicity, wisdom, and connection to Mother Earth. We live on this planet. This is Mother Earth. And yet it's going to take a lot of time. And I see and hear a lot of anxiety in us looking at everything close up. And sometimes it helps to get the larger picture of where life, the universe, the Godhead is cycling us toward. I hope you get that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Eric, a little bit?
Well, I mean,
This is
I think
the
in
picture,
I
man.
think personally think in time frames of billions of years. I mean, the place where I learned astrology, the exposed seafloor is 400 million years old. I thought it was only 250 million, but I talked to a geologist a couple of weeks ago. who said, actually, no, that's probably closer to 400 million. So I think in terms of very long time frames, but we also know that, the Lascaux artwork behind me,
Yeah, yeah. I'm going there in September.
you can actually get into the cave, or are you going to go see
Can't
the
get into-
replica?
No, you can't get into the original.
They have a
Those are
replica.
being protected right now. So they have a whole tour on the replica.
Yeah.
They've replicated the original, and I'm still going to go there and
So
get into that energy.
I
But
would
that's
love to
barely.
hear about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'll let
that's
you know.
only 20,000 years ago, right? So
That's
that's very, very recently in the sense of, the Gilboa Forest is only about 20 miles from where I'm sitting, and the one of the second oldest known fossilized forest in the world. And then one in Catskill, even closer, was discovered that's even older. So it's we don't realize how recently we are here, like what we think of as human, and I see it evaporating very quickly. I don't worry about whether the human bodies will survive. I have a deep concern over the fact that our souls are being electrocuted. Um,
all right.
and I see people do it voluntarily, and and they you present them with it, and then like they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right. So that's very interesting. That's an interesting question. And I've asked myself this many times. As we go into the dehumanization process, for which the electrical age will bring us, right? Which is what you speak of very eloquently. Having come from 35 years of psychospiritual work, I go, oh my God, what is going to happen to the Dharma? What is going to happen to the spiritual life of the human being? What do all of the Hindu rishis think about what is going to happen to, um, those individuals who lose their souls? Because there are many people on this planet right now who are also bringing in and planting the new seeds that will be born into the new cycle. And that has to do with those who refuse to get married to or lose themselves in the electrical age, and they are happening and they are associated with the earth. This is all about regenerative agriculture. You see a lot of really good young kids coming in with niche farming in rural agricultural areas. So as a lot of the purging of those individuals who are going to take themselves out, there are those who are holding the Dharma of Mother Nature in their hands and in their lifestyles right now. They will represent, crossing the bridge as well. That's all I can tell you,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
I'm
that
sorry.
at least is plausible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can look at
Right.
this whole thing and get very depressed, but I'll tell you, I have never been so buoyed by a larger perspective of where I sit and where I've incarnated in this whole huge circular cycle of life, thinking, my God, I have incarnated to do my soul work at the very end of the darkest cycle of the Kali Yuga and the Yuga system. Do you
Hmm.
understand?
Yeah.
And so that to me, that bodes well for my individual rebirth at some point, right? May not be for thousands of years, but I'm very, very busy holding the space in my relationship with the natural world, with Mother Earth, in simplicity and balance and beauty and harmony with all the creatures. And I also live on a farm, um, through my choice, um, because whenever I reincarnate, I want that to be at a time in which the yugas will plant me right back here in that natural, beautiful relationship to this earth, which is going to happen. But the interim from now until then is going to be messy. And what you're speaking out of is your observations of how freaking messy it is. And it's going to be for a while, 300 years.
Yeah.
Okay. According to James. And
Yeah.
according to Misra's also, his numbers really add up.
Early in the history of planet waves, as I was kind of getting my original instructions, I was told I was speaking to people 600 years in the future.
Yep. Okay. So hopefully that affirms your process and your place as a way shower and, you know, being eloquent and trusting what you're saying is going to have seeds also
Oh, I
planted.
don't doubt that at all.
Okay,
I
good
have
deal.
I couldn't get up every morning and do that and do what I do every day and do it so passionately if I thought I wasn't making any difference now or in the future.
Yeah. But what I'm seeing is more of you
But
now.
what's that?
I'm seeing more of what you're doing relative to what I understood now from this book.
Hmm.
A lot of things came together. I was able to really connect the dots. And when I see people in my orbit, such as you, I go, oh my God, that's what he's doing. Oh, super cool. Right.
Hmm.
And when I see the younger generation coming in through living in different ways than, with something attached to them, they're making choices about living close to the earth.
Hmm.
But, I mean, the majority of when you look out there, I see many, many more millions and millions of people that are not meant to do that. They're not choosing that. And that's painful. It's painful to see.
Well, I think a lot of people don't see it as an option. This is what I'm saying about the people we're calling digital natives is that they they don't have
Mhm.
just like I don't know what it's like live in sub-Saharan Africa. I have maybe some concepts about it, but I've never been there. Um,
There's going to
where
be,
where right? How are they going to know? And why I think why should anybody know care about what I had as a young person? Why should I try to get people excited about being a journalist as being like the greatest skill set to have of all the skill sets to have in the world right now. Knowing about how to do journalism will give you confidence and a sense of how to think and how to express yourself and an excuse to go in behind any door. I don't have a lot of takers.
so you're battling generational amnesia from here on out.
Yeah, I try not to think of it as battling. I think more of it
Okay,
as
sorry.
singing to or making art for or something like that. Since I mentioned the Chironian, let me show you these. I've got two photos of the cave. Share. Share. We're going to share.
Can't wait. I'm a horse person, so
All right. Can
I'm,
everyone see this?
oh wow.
So this is a cement mine in Rosendale, New York. And I found it. I was doing a kind of a new moon meditation with Nikki Peony. Hi, Nikki. I don't think you're listening. In about this is in the summer of spring of '95. In the cave, immediately facing back from behind the camera, there was another cave, and we did this. I'm not like a big new moon meditator type of person, but there we were sitting in this cave basically, and Nikki and I were just one spirit, Virgo, Pisces, and I felt the moon go by, and I experienced a dimensional opening with the new moon. I mean, it was plain that is what was happening, and again, thankfully, I have enough spiritual training to not make something special out of that. I think it's very important to not make something special out of that, but just to gently follow the. Anyway, so this happens, and We open our eyes, and there we are. The new moon's passed a couple of minutes ago, and I step up a couple of steps, and I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this scene from this exact angle, thinking, "Holy shit! Where the hell am I?" And that is the Chironian. And so I spent much of the summer and autumn of '96, 95 into '96, making fire, maintaining the cave, the seafloor. You can see that angled roof there on the left side. That's the 400 million year seafloor that started like that and then flipped over like that. So it's from uplifting of continental movements, and apparently, according to Chuck, now my geology professor, I have a professor for everything. He's at the New York State Museum. That this is a shallow sea, maybe 100, like a coastal sea before the continental shelf, and this whole area was this inland coastal sea, and then it became forested. So anyway, that's that. Here's another view. Share, and then we'll take the next person. No, come on. Did that change the view? Stop. Okay, we'll stop share, and then we'll share again. And here's the view from the other direction. No, it's this. What's going on here? Did it change the view?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming in from a different angle. And
Yeah, good. I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay, there you
fire
go.
around here too.
All right, there you go. That's the different angle. So we somehow, this cave is very well concealed. It's like in the Lord of the Rings. Like you have to know what you're looking for to find it. Right. There's the path meets the ground at a certain angle, and you know that when the embankment comes down and is at the level of the path, the embankment to your right, that's where you make the turn. There's no other marker. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it unless you know what you're doing. And by the way, maybe some of you know who Dave Wilcock is. Back before Dave Wilcock was Dave Wilcock, he and I spent a lot of time in that cave, having the time of our lives, drumming and then one night we brought down the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo chicks, and we chanted Nam-myoho Renge Kyo all night long with these two adorable little cult girls. It was so much fun. And there used to be bats there, but there's not anymore. Okay. All right. Matt McGee.
Thank you.
Yeah. Till next time. All right.
All right. All the
Don't
best.
go far. Stop video. Back to the peanut gallery. All right. Who you got hand raised? There's a couple of that would be, did I miss a male body? No, that was Paul. That was McGee imitating.
Paul I think he's got a message. Thanks everyone for the chat. I'll watch for the next open forum.
Okay.
And we'll have questions for you. So he might have left.
All right, excellent. So Analea at Spotlight. Howdy.
Hey, hi,
Hello.
Janice. I have a couple of comments and then I have a question.
Let her rip, babe.
Thank you. I want to comment on Janet's speaking about myofascial, and my experience with it has been that it's the bioelectrical system, that it is the interface between the inner and the outer. And in much the same way that Janet had said that it is the sea that we float in, that has been my experience as well. So it's not form as we understand form and, form as we understand form in body systems. It is the envelope that these body systems reside in within the outer body of a vessel, of a physical body. So I just wanted to comment on that because I have a fair amount of experience with it, although I'm not a body worker. and I wanted to give you a little bit of information so that you understand how I'm sitting right between these two worlds. So in the 80s, I was working in film and music, and I was setting up in film internal networks. And the idea of these electrical devices was very freeing at that time. So we were seeing openings happening, opportunities to communicate within an office with each other in different areas. And then that extended into the 90s and the beginning of Y2K, as you said. And then things started slipping, and it became less of a freeing thing and more of a, I wouldn't say scary, but a restrictive thing. It still continued in my personal situation. It still continued to allow me to bridge places that I could not go physically, whereby I could communicate with people or engage in activities around the world that I would not have been able to do had those elements not been there. But when I like when you say the C word. So when the C word,
There's a better C word, but that's not the one I'm referring to.
exactly. So when C happened in 2020, I began to viscerally feel that all of these devices were no longer our friends, and that they were conditioning us, as you mentioned, in ways that was very subtle, almost as if you're a lucid dreamer and something is added to your lucid dream, that changes the whole atmosphere of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my experience, and I also want to add that I do live on a farm now. I was not living here before, but I've owned this property for many years. I communicate with nature. So I have both this electrical world and this natural world in my life. And you, Eric, know of my personal situation, what happened during 2020 onward. So my question to you is, how does one traverse this? How does one traverse this and maintain one's humanity, one's awareness, one's interconnectedness with not only humans, but with the nature of being and technology? What do we need to do to make that happen? You know, I struggle with that all the time now. I struggle with people, as you say, I call it attraction and aversion. You call it a pulling towards and then shutting down, but it's the same thing. I get the impression that people are not in their bodies. It's almost like they're sleepwalking. There's this feeling of dullness. And when I say feeling, I'm talking about when I engage with people, it's a somatic response. And there's this kind of dullness. You have a conversation that appears meaningful, and yet 5 minutes later, they're distracted and into something else. And it's very odd. It feels like sleepwalkers to me.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I traverse this without cloistering myself on my property, communing with nature, waiting for the people that are attracted to the land that I steward here? How I can't imagine being isolated You know, where is the community now? Do you feel my question?
Hell yeah. Yeah. And not only that, but the digital realm infuses civic society, like in body, with hostility.
Yes.
The right, so the part of the discarnate experience is the use of aggression as kind of therapy for self-actualization. So we've got a lot of issues here, and I mean, I can only tell you what I do, which is I throw my heart and soul into everything that I do, which I know reaches people. And when I'm on the street, I meet every dog, right? And I don't get out into nature enough, the Chironian or the grandmother land, but I try to keep that spirit with me all the time. And dogs are a very important part of my connection because they're all over they're all over the place, and they're almost all friendly. And I think that using this environment to make art is very important. That there's, I think that most of the extend and cut off has to do with being a consumer in this environment, and not a genuine creator. And there's a lot that passes for creation, and there's a lot of very subtle creativity. Vine, anybody remember Vine? There were 7-second videos. 7 seconds, anyone remember that? Look up Vine videos. Though there's compilations of them. Vine, Vine. They went out of business. It kind of became, TikTok kind of took its place. But 7 seconds? So you want to learn how to edit, watch Vine videos. So there is creativity going on, but to me, what makes something art is the risk involved. There really has to be a risk involved. A personal risk.
Explain that. I that's a very foreign, when you say that, I can say, yes, I understand, but I don't really think that I understand. So give me an example if you don't mind.
My article on the Me Too movement
Okay?
that created like the biggest uproar for 100 miles in 20 years. Oh, what was I saying? It was almost classical Simone de Beauvoir feminism. Before that, I was radical feminist. And then I saw this uproar. That's the kind of risk I'm talking about. The kind of risk where you feel like they're going to kick your door in if you keep going. The kind of risk where you think if you say this, all your friends and family will abandon you. God, what will they think? That's the risk I'm talking about. Oh my God, what will they think if they knew this about me? Really, really taking a personal risk, counterintuitive to all the science and the environment and all the spying and the AI consuming everything and getting the wrong idea about you. That's what I mean by a risk. Art takes a risk. Art requires a risk. Otherwise, you're weaving baskets.
Before I came back to North America, I was fearless.
Yeah, then you hit the energy field here and it's kind of dense, isn't it? It's kind of dense.
Takes my breath away. It's as if it's as foreign this it's as if this is the foreign land. When you talk about risk, I posted on a bulletin suggesting that we should change our governmental ballots to include none of the above, and that if the general populace voted none of the above, that there would have to be something in place to come up with an option. And on a bulletin, a public bulletin, you would imagine that would get response. Nothing. Neither.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that too. Well, and a lot of things like the not liking or sharing that bit because somebody might see you. If you like something on Substack, it shows up on some feed somewhere.
Right.
Like on your feed somewhere, it shows up, right? You just click like, and then boom, that article is then cross-posted basically merely by liking it. People know this. They don't want to have their names associated with certain subject matter. So I'm on a new experiment of bringing sexual subject matter to the front of Planet Waves. I do it every now and then. I have never quite done it the way that I'm doing it now. And I know that I'm coming across. I know people are getting it. But when an article has like 6,500 reads and then 23 likes, you know that people are not wanting to associate themselves with it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that they're not, uh, you know, taking it in. So it takes a busload of faith, as Lou Reed said.
Yeah.
But McLuhan, we really need to understand this guy. He was the only person who ever sought to understand the actual nature of the media environment as the primary thing shaping us, shaping the entire experience of self and of society. And he said, and I've done my best to immortalize this quote at the top of the COVID chronology, where I quote him and his son. Marshall said, "To have a disease without symptoms is to be immune." One idea. Next idea. No society has ever known enough about its actions to have developed immunity to its new extensions or technologies. Thought two. This is an extension, right?
Yeah.
Your ear. I really like your ear, so I have this wonderful magnet. Thought three. In the age of, no, that's the sun. Today we have begun to sense that art may be able to provide such immunity.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is why and he defined art as anybody who is awake at the switch. If you're actually paying attention, so there's a lot of artists who are not awake. They're called artists. They make art. They're good at painting, or whatever. But they're not necessarily actually awake at the switch. So that's what he meant. He says it all throughout. It's woven all throughout his writing, how he defines an artist. I take it one step further, though awareness is risky, that the actual experience of making art is it should strike some terror through your heart,
Right.
at least for a minute,
Right.
like or total engagement and absorption as well. Not just painting, not just making pretty things.
But
What do we? Yes, please.
It's interesting. You speak about art as the way that most people understand it, but I see art in life. I see art in accounting for something.
Everywhere. That's right. That's what he was saying.
Exactly. So I see creativity in anyone that loves what they're doing, that uses it to expand.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Awake.
Okay.
And it can be in anything.
Right.
It's not restricted to the known creative arts.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That's great.
Yeah. So it's about awareness and yeah. But that risk, you'll see me whenever I'm talking about the fifth house, I'm always bringing in the risk element. That's how you know I'm writing about the fifth house in the horoscope, is I bring in the element of risk, because art and gambling are in the same house. And fucking in the style of the art studio, not the style of the eighth house, the marital bed, the funeral home style. The other one that, you maybe got to experience as a teenager. Most people forgot about that. So I call it the couch in the art studio. There's a real art studio somewhere in Paris where I got that idea. Had a lot of paint on it, the couch. All right. Thank you. I will see you around the neighborhood. Any other thoughts? All right. Back to the peanut gallery. All right. Who had their paw up? Somebody. Did someone? Patrick. Wait, really? That's you? All right, out of the peanut gallery. Add spotlight.
What's up, Eric?
Howdy.
How's it going?
Good. Good morning or good evening.
Great. Good to see I'm in Florida, so it's good evening.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I got into this a little bit late, so I'm just gonna say hi to everybody. Still following your work, Eric. It's really quite funny. Everything you say about the planetary movements and the influences, and especially Chiron. They're really like my life has been unfolding just literally in lockstep with what you've been talking about. It's been pretty amazing. Um, and so a lot of like the way the way I'm kind of entering this whole experiment, this whole experience, and all the current events and all the BS going on in the outer world is so like I'm the type of person that when I get to family engagements and then the nightly news comes on, I'm always the guy that either what like changes the channel. Or I'm the guy that like gets pissed off and leaves the room because I just don't want to see it. And that's kind of been my theme for the last 4 years. I kind of I got inundated with all the COVID stuff and had some family stuff and disagreements with people. And I was just like, man, I've had enough. I kind of view a lot of the current events as like the system is rigged and it's just, I can lose my individuality the further I delve into it and like get distracted by it. Um, so it's like, you know, a lot of some of the early Alice Bailey writings I think might be in Discipleship of the New Age. She talks about how the awakening of a person is moving a lot of the attention and energy centers from the solar plexus to the throat or the forehead, I believe. And the solar plexus is the kind of group think, which would be the Aquarius aspect. Pluto's in Aquarius now. So my experience moving into this kind of interesting time has been to just like clean house, start my own creative process. I started voice training recently. It's been amazing. Like I've been doing more yoga, sweating, like cleaning up my diet. So it's just it's been a really and and one of the other things I wanted to say, the creativity. My voice instructor introduced a notion to me about the risk involved with the creativity. She is kind of a cutting edge. She's more of like a quantum create your life through voice type person. And she's the type that will put herself in uncomfortable scenarios in order to grow. So she's the person that will go and walk down one aisle at the supermarket and sing really shitty just to like see what everybody's reaction is, and then down the next aisle and sing at the top of her lungs really, really wonderfully. And she gave me these examples about the reactions of people involved. The funniest thing is I started going to the pier, the local pier here on the Gulf, and I started singing too, or I'll sing when I ride my bike. And the amount of positive feedback I get from people has been amazing, because it's almost like all of this shit that's going on in our current events is supposed to keep us in our shells. It's supposed to keep us out of our creativity. And so I've literally like, I don't pay attention to Twitter. I hate to say it, sorry if that's it might sound kind of shitty that I'm in a lot of respects I'm only loosely paying attention to current events because I can't handle being wrapped up in it. I'd much rather actually pay attention to current events through your lens, Eric, than through the lens of CNN elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But it's been very interesting because that's been a lens to let me see how much people are looking for permission to be creative, and they're looking for permission to like see how other people are navigating this. And there, I will tell you, and a lot of people in my community are having like pretty amazing awakening experiences creatively too. There's a lot of people just like letting shit go and getting on to their own, living their personal prayer. And I think that is one of the kind of focal points that I think a lot of people can take with this. It's not how much I can react to the current events. It's how much am I focusing and honing in on my own unfoldment, which is really interesting to think about. In response to, not trying to crosstalk, but in response to the isolation aspect, another interesting experience I've had is I gave up a career in doing neuromuscular massage therapy for 16 years. And now I work at a restaurant. And it has been the absolute most wonderful experience for me, because it's a restaurant where a lot of people, they're not just like, high on Coke. They're like really good, conscious people. And it's a, gluten-free restaurant. It's very conscious, things like that. And it occurred to me that like, God, or whatever, however you want to say it, is like creating these little ashrams that could be local businesses around here that are revolving around cooperation. And I think that's one of the coolest things too, is like there are little groups of people that are sprouting up, and they have a collective sort of focus on moving forward into the future positively, and around the theme of cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been really a really interesting learning process. And there's been a lot of grace that's kind of, like we've gotten a lot of grace and a lot of growth out of that as a community. So, not trying to ramble. What do you think?
Live? What, are you in a city or a town, or where do you live?
I'm in a city. I'm in St. Pete.
St. Pete, so West Coast.
Yeah, outside Tampa.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's hard for me to judge personally, like community, because it's so, here people stay inside so much.
Oh yeah.
They don't really come out, and at gatherings it seems like it's always the same 20 people. So it's very difficult to get any sense of community movement.
Oh, that's
And
really
then all the organizations were bought by a billionaire named Peter Buffett. So there's quite a lockdown, and I'm still looking for some evidence of a reversal.
Oh, really?
Well, the environment's completely overheated, but we don't know where the bounce point is.
Yeah.
When environments overheat, they tend to reverse. I'm sure that's happening some places. I'm sure there are plenty of physical places where people are just freaking sick of it. Farmers markets are a good example. I mean, the farmers market is like the most alive thing that happens around here.
Oh, cool.
Because it's spontaneous. You can't really script it. Though the previous some previous administration tried, and they were still trying to regulate how many people were allowed in a massive parking lot in 2020, and standing 6 feet apart, wearing a mask in a parking lot, with the breeze blowing.
Yeah.
But still, it's come quite a ways, and it seems to be markets have that spontaneity, right? Open markets have that spontaneity, but there's nothing else really like it.
Dude, there might be people like 2 or 3 people that are getting together. One's playing guitar and another's painting, 4 doors down.
That would count, but I don't know how I'd find out about that.
Yeah, right.
I guess I could go knocking on all the doors.
Maybe so.
I go up and down the street. Just
Well, see, but that's
everyone's
risk.
bell.
That's risk too, though. So,
Oh, yeah.
Look, here's the deal,
Sure.
guys. I'm in this neighborhood. I'm looking for the funky people. We're the creatives.
They exist everywhere.
Yeah.
But I have noticed a real tightening of the mesh since 2020. I just
Yeah.
have, and it's a psychic and spiritual mesh, I think. And I'm about as gregarious as it gets. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm way over the top for most people. I'm
Yeah.
way too me for most people. So I don't know how I guess I could just push it a little harder, just ring those doorbells or just start driving around pretending I'm lost. Just drive down some road and start ringing doorbells. I am
That would
looking for the Smith family. This
that
is
would be
the,
great.
look on the mailbox, 14 Gravelberry Court. This is supposed to be the Smith residence, isn't it? Well, no, there's nobody named Smith here. Oh, can I come in?
You could put an ad in the paper.
What would the ad say?
Oh, I don't know.
I've done a lot of that. Book of
too.
Blue was completely created by Craigslist ads.
Yeah.
And look at those photos. Almost every one of those photos started on Craigslist.
Yeah, man.
Except when the girls brought their friends, and that still started on Craigslist because then I found the first one on
Oh,
Craigslist.
I will say that in my own community, and maybe I mean, yeah, it's warmer out here. People can get outside.
Yeah.
You know, it's 76 outside. It's like 68 right now. So yeah, that does make a big difference. I will say that, man, there's a lot of people in at least my community that are just like, they're waking up and they're the time acceleration is giving us all a lot of chances to really do some good house cleaning fast. And that's how an author, Tom Kenyon, put it too. But yeah, man, it's and there are a lot of people that are having like the downloads and the true energetic shifts. It's really wild.
Mhm.
It's really wild. Maybe there's an open mic night in Kingston, or maybe the next town over.
Yeah. Well, I'm always looking around, and then I often end up here, talking to you good people, which is easier than like driving all the way down to Wappingers Falls for the open mic or something like that. But there is actually one in town, and I think I missed the LGBTQ open stand-up comedy, which I could have had an extremely creative event. But that's coming up though. I think that Pride Month is coming up like in 3 months, right? So maybe they'll do the open mic stand-up comedy LGBTQ. I'm always trying to find out which one of those damn stripes represents heterosexual men, and nobody has a good answer for me. Can you see these stripes? These crosswalks here are all striped. And I am always asking the people in the LGBTQ center next door, yeah, which stripe is for my straight dude friends? Do they get a stripe? Well, why not? They don't think it's that funny. I think it's really funny. Plus, I think there should be a stripe because being a straight man is the new queer. Which I think that was the theme of my proposed open mic stand-up. White straight males, the new queer. $3 bill.
Oh my God.
All right. Thank you. We have a session coming up, right? Is that scheduled yet, or we're still trying to do that? Do we? Am I right? Yes.
What'd you ask?
Our second session is supposed to happen, right? Do we schedule
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay, good. Well, it should go in my calendar, which I'm now finally
I'll
using.
wait. That's cool.
No need to.
I'll be here.
All right, good.
Just hit me up whenever.
Good. Love.
Thanks for the
All
talk
right.
time.
Anybody else here? Let's see. Back to the peanut gallery.
Keep it existential, Eric.
Why, thank you. That's one way to say it, isn't it? All right. Anybody else here? Let's see. Look around here. No, that was not. We heard from Matt. We heard from Annalee. We heard from Janice. We heard from Manisa. Picard, you got anything to say? We heard from Austin. Nadine's not saying anything. Dennis, got anything to say? You're getting called on. I don't care if you don't have anything to say. Add spotlight. This is like high school math. You're being put on the spot. But can I unmute you? Are you unmuted?
I am unmuted.
Tell me about
Can
the
you hear me?
painting behind you, please. Is that yours?
No, that was something my wife bought. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
But I can see it.
Yeah, my camera's like bouncing in and out. It's like kind of strange. But one of the things I wanted to, going back to the fascia, is that in traditional Chinese medicine, and certainly in esoteric physiology, we're talking about the etheric body, and that the fascia is the physical manifestation of the etheric body. So yeah, that just is a, there's just so much tradition from that perspective of entertaining
But why, I mean, for example, why am I first hearing about this tonight after
I think it's
I've had
been,
like 100 clients who are serious healers, at least?
yeah, well, as far as, the medical profession is concerned, I think it's only been the last 20 years that they've given it any viability. They just used to take it right out, as they were more interested in the organs, not the connective tissue. So that was just trash. They cut around that stuff and without any, real knowledge of it. But that just speaks to allopathic medicine in general. I mean,
Yeah, tonsillectomy.
well, or just the materialism of it. It's like they're not thinking about an energetic body at all. That's not their perspective. So that's not where they're not going to see it. So yeah, I mean, that's the piece that I mean, that's just there. So but like for instance, I study a Japanese modality called Jinshin Jutsu, which actually is laying on of hands technique that it directly dialogues with the etheric body or the fascia. So, and that came about at the turn of the century, or the beginning of the 20th century. So, and that was a reclamation of, ancient oral Japanese tradition. So, so I even see that as a precursor back into, the Atlantean civilization. This type of knowledge has been around for a long time. It's just that, as I forgot who was talking about the Kali Yuga, but the darkness that descended as a result in our consciousness is just part of how we've forgotten who we really are. And all we have to do is touch ourselves to self-heal. It's like we don't even have to touch somebody else. We just have to have the foreknowledge that we can, that we can literally touch ourselves and go into orgasm. I mean, when you talk about, I love your current the sexuality discussion, but from a higher vibrational point of view, being able to go into full body orgasm without masturbating or having any sense of genitalia it's a stimulus, but it catapults you into a full awareness of the etheric body and your fascia. And as a result of that, your body goes into various releases or little mini orgasms. So, yeah. I did think that we were going to talk more astrologically, but that's a whole other story.
Hey, I did my homework today. I made up all of my charts. Look, I did that one.
Dude,
I even did that one. And I done this one. Wait, I got this one. I have this one. I have this one.
But even if
look at all these. And then I have this one, another one. And then I have not much written down, but anyway.
But besides the charts, it's like, talking about, with the current, the next eclipse that's going to be happening at 9 degrees of Aries, and that, the Mercury station is going to be there at 9, and the Venus station is going to be there at 9.
And that's like, the Salacia square going on?
Well, yeah.
Right there. That's right in the Family Hunger Games thing. That's right there.
Right. So I mean, there's just so much articulation that can occur, but our orientations aren't always, and getting back to some of this digital environment stuff is part of being the collective ego. It's like you just dissociate. You just say no. I mean, you can be engaged with it, but you don't have to accept it. You just have to say no to it. And then that puts you in a juxtaposition of being able to have some distance and say, look, that's just fucking insanity. Yeah, all right, maybe I want to know something and I'm going to plug in and engage. But at least you have the sense that you have sovereignty over just saying no. It's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, I probably unsubscribed from 30 Substacks over the summer.
Yeah.
And I still get a couple of them, and they're nuts. They're nuts. The editor in me wants to send it back to the writer. I could do a markup of one, like circle all the cliches, circle all the hyperbolic language, underline all the completely meaningless statements, all of which contribute to just like mental instability. So yeah, that probably wouldn't help anything, but unsubscribing helped because I was decluttered my inbox, and then we canceled $1,000 a year in paid subscriptions to these people who were lying, basically to keep my $10 a month. You just have to tell the truth. A short list. It was a short list of ones that I kept. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it too. I mean, sense of humor, the internet eats sense of humor badly. I mean, it's almost like you know who's awake because they get the joke.
Yeah. The cosmic joke. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they get the joke. I mean, I did my apology from the Flat Earth movement last April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Because I got so fucking sick of people on the missing virus team. People really who I know understand science.
Yeah.
Absolutely convinced and trying to convince me the world is flat, and that I've got my head up my ass because I don't think that the world is flat. I'm like, no, you've got a digital problem. You don't really think the world is flat. You just have a digital problem. Yeah, the world is flat. I don't have any examples of disk drives around, but they're all they're all migrated to the other room. Yeah, the Google Earth fits in your pocket. It's awful flat. You could have the entire Google Earth on like a 4 terabyte disk drive. Wear it around your neck. Digital problem.
The firmaments that flat earthers talk about is the cranial dura.
They've got, what are they?
They're just completely missing the metaphorical point. That's all. Sorry.
So what is that the experiment, are they claiming the firmament does? No, what's the ether? This somewhat, unless it really was referring to something, which is really the conducting medium of space. Bailey says space is not empty, right? She's almost always right. She seems a little like, that's weird, but I paid $25 for this book and she's supposed to be smart. So I'm going to give this 10 years. I'm going to think about this for 10 years. And she said way back in esoteric astrology, space is not empty. You'll all be so shocked when you find out that space is not actually empty.
Right. That it has consciousness.
Yeah, and that there's stuff, that it's a medium, it's a conducting medium of some kind. And she said there would be 50 planets. She was off a little bit, but
oh no, we're still growing. There was just a new one that just came out. Phil Sedgwick just mentioned that there was a new Kuiper Belt object just this week.
Yeah, there's I think there's a total of 1.1 million or 0.2 objects in the catalog. They're not all named yet, but they're in there with provisional, more than 1 million objects known to be orbiting our sun. So they're discovering them. I mean, Jane Liu told me that they, due to some technical problem, they like lost 25 of them early on. Lost track of them. She discovered the Kuiper Belt, quote with Dave Jewett, and said, yeah, we had a lot more, but somehow they got lost. Okay, well, I'll find him again.
Well, they're part of our consciousness. They're just not conscious at the moment. Right?
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Phil's good at telling you what the ones that don't have names mean.
Hmm.
That's his specialty.
Oh, really?
I've got to get back on his mailing list. I was wondering if he was still in business, but I guess
I
so.
have no idea. I have no idea.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else? Anybody else on this perfectly lovely digital evening? You're like the friendliest place on the entire internet. All right. Well, Dennis, thank you for closing the show.
You're welcome.
And once again, last call. Anybody else here?
There was one Nadine Lalonde. You can need to unmute.
Oh, did Nadine have her hand up?
Yes, she did. Yeah.
I know Nadine.
Nadine, go.
Hold
Diana
on.
too.
You're on.
Add to the spotlight.
You're on.
Okay, now out of the peanut gallery.
You seem very surprised that I'd want to say anything.
You're such a thoughtful, careful observer.
Oh, I take it all in. I process. I wanted to ask about, not sure if I can formulate this properly. The link between the awakening and the digital disembodiment and your latest essays around the Book of Blue project. Do you have bridges between those? Because I have a feeling that the Book of Blue project essays are pointing the way how to get embodied and how to have that creative expression that's so necessary in individuation and self-awareness and spiritual connection.
That is accurate.
Okay.
And I'm also aware that I am one of the few presenters carrying the sexual piece who's not politicizing it. I'm not making it into political theater.
Well, it is a way to get to know oneself. And then if you know who you are, you can't be hijacked, absconded with, kidnapped.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all of that. Yeah, sure. This is I won't say intentionally. But I kind of know my assignment when I wake up in the morning, and so I kind of got that. That was all going on during the lead up to the Venus North Node Neptune conjunction, where and with Book of Blue, I've gone in kind of waves over the past 20 years. I've been doing the project of how far to the front of planet waves do I put it?
We need it.
What's that?
We need it.
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing it, and I unearthed 7 terabytes of data, basically all my photos from 2005 to 2017, and they're now being copied onto modern disk drives. So I got the message to like get that going, and it came with like a series of personal breakthroughs at the same time. So it's always driven by personal breakthroughs, but this is an essential missing piece, I think, as far as the disembodiment issue. That sexuality is essential. It's as important as dogs. It's more important. Well, now, without the dogs and cats, we're completely lost souls. But setting them aside, in the human realm, this is the basic point of grounding, and it's the basic point of self-knowledge. And what is an orgasm? I've got to take that up soon. What is this mysterious thing? Not everyone experiences them. There's kinds of things you can have physically that are sort of orgasmic, but they're not really. The energy bodies opening up, and especially men, I think, are getting sheeted. Great topic. So yeah, that's I'm here with that now. And it's all from the "if I can do this, I can live my life" files. That my newfound confidence lately is partly or directly a result of that, and that work, the Book of Blue series, the new one, which is now like 11,000 words long, and The actual proper Book of Blue is quite a thing. I'll say that. I'm not putting that right out front. But what kept me in the background was I was on the very, very front lines of the C word and the V word, the P word issue. And so I was hot in the spotlight and I was keenly aware of the danger that I was in by doing that. And under certain types of, it's not that I feel threatened, it's I get information that I need to conduct myself a certain way. So as part of my, along the lines of encouraging the flat earthers to shut the fuck up before we all end up on page 1 of the New York Times as flat earthers whose thoughts on science cannot possibly be credible, I kept a Book of Blue cooking in the background during those years, knowing that eventually I would, reintroduce it. So doing it in a bold way, and there you go. And it's that, and like astrologically, Salacia. So, by the way, I mean, let's at least once use the chart, the chart, but it's not as big. All right, let's see now. This pattern, come on, this pattern here. See that purple line? How do I do this? Everything's always the wrong way on video. Okay. There's the eclipse. No, now you can see it. There's the eclipse. There's Salacia. Here's the Family Hunger Games group with Pholus, Quaoar, Ixion, Cupido, which I didn't draw in, all in the cat. Oh, come on, bro. How do I do this? Someone help me. Which way is up? I've got to turn the paper sideways to be able to fit it into the frame. So it's already sideways. So this group is just churning out energy in early Capricorn. And then it's at a right angle to Salacia and this eclipse. So the confrontation is between family conditioning and personally appropriate sexuality. So my theme, the theme of guided partly by my delineation of Salacia, is to recognize that there's a personally appropriate form of sexual expression for you. And I gave that job to Salacia, consort of Neptune. I went deep into the etymology of the word salacious, that they're not related. It's kind of a faux ami. That Salacia is about what is salty, and the though it kind of fits the etymology of salaciousness. We know what that means, right? That's like edgy and potentially inappropriate, and showing a little too much leg, whatever, at the company party, cannot be connected to Salacia. It may be there, but you can't connect them. So the story of Salacia is that Neptune wanted her and had to send a dolphin to propose, because it had to be right for her. And so I'm like, this is a nice story. I like the story. All the Greek gods are raping each other all the time, right? So that's one does not seem to have a rape involved. So and these points often delineate themselves for me as I'm reading the charts. And so given the tension between this group and the family cluster, this tense cluster of all this family shit coming up, and then imagining the little 3-year-old who you once were in the middle of a family that can't handle who you are. None of them can. Some of them can, but almost none of them can. So that's the long answer to your.
Well, I wasn't expecting a concise one.
You're right.
But I was. Dennis, were
What's
you
the
gonna...
degree rising right now? Oh, here in New York, it's no, wait a second. Now that I asked the question, it's 23 Libra. Eris is right on the seventh house. Our
Well,
old pal.
one of the things I wanted to mention about that group, Eric, is that the U.S. Eris is there at 8 Capricorn, which just
Ah,
is which is just like starts ringing a bell. Like it's so again, the idea of putting your stuff out there from the sexual point of view is just a game changer. I mean, it's definitely going to be a monkey wrench as far as she's concerned, but
who's
it's right
concerned as far
there.
as who's concerned?
Eric,
Eris,
Ah,
Eris.
no, she loves this stuff. I don't think Eris is the
Well,
evil. The mythological Eris is
no,
evil,
no,
but
no, no.
that's
Right.
threading the needle. Oh, it's a disrupted energy. Yes.
Right. But she's the game changer.
Yeah.
It's like she's the one. I mean, yeah. I mean, what's going on with our current administration is a prime example of the chaos that can be created.
Yeah. If you want to make a distraction, it's easy.
Right.
It's easy to throw a torch at something. It's all they're doing.
Hmm.
I don't mind that so much as I mind people thinking, oh, maybe this is a good thing. I trust Elon Musk. Like, you can't be that stupid, right? Are you really, really? Okay. But Americans are very politically naive. That's the moon conjunct Pallas Athene. And they think politics is a sport. They treat it like a spectator sport. It's not like any serious outcomes are involved. It's like, yay for my team, boo for your team. How did you like that play? Right.
In the myofascial system, sorry to interrupt.
Please, with something serious.
In the myofascial system, there are, well, the relationships between the more, I guess, the governing circuits that are higher up versus the more effected circuits that are lower down. There's a relationship between the pelvic floor and the throat and the hyoid muscles and all of this, which would correspond with the throat chakra, throat minor, throat major chakra. So if we're talking about personally appropriate sexuality, we're also talking about personally appropriate expression of creativity, because the two are also homologous.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back into the point of getting away from the groupthink that is solar plexus and into your own voice. That is the homologous sort of representation of sex, but also sex itself. So there's this very interesting like relationship of personal unfolding through the creative process. And I hear some people say that there's going to be a renaissance that's going to happen, that's going to start very, very shortly. And you will see a major boom, which I think the kindling is going to be the astrology that happens this spring and summer and into the next year, which I'm so excited to hear your take on that, especially starting with the eclipse. And I really think that a lot of people are being prepped for a burst of creativity, and I think anybody can tap into that. Just, I mean, and whatever it takes.
The question is, who's prepared to handle it? I mean, it can burn. It
Yeah.
can be
Well,
source of burnout. But whatever. It's better burning out like that than on fentanyl. When you leave, you recover. Oh well, I made too many paintings, whatever. You can recover from that kind of an OD.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's true, and there's not everybody that gets good health advice from their allopathic doctor. So, yeah, that's very true. That's why I've simplified my diet like crazy. I mean, no gluten, no dairy, no soy. Just like I get violent reactions now if I eat it. But
Mm-hmm.
but that is priming my system to be able to at the very least handle the higher vibrations in my opinion, and according to others. But you know, and I think there might be some universality to that statement as well. So, and which I think is part of the impetus also for you know, to keep people kind of digitally enslaved, as you keep them unhealthy as well. So you just, you know, you keep them from waking up, they're easier to control. So you just see this big ass chain of events. It kind of like, when you step back and objectively look at it all, it kind of makes sense. It's like, all right, time to, you know, get healthy and go be yourself.
Be embodied, get healthy, be embodied.
Eat only beef. That's it. Only beef.
No, the carnivore people are they're all having shitty digestive systems anyway.
They don't all, but you know, I will say
some
that, I
of
mean,
them.
it's convincing. I can't do it. I can't do it. I like too many other foods, and I'm something of a saucier. So if you're a saucier, you're not eating only beef.
Yeah.
To get to Patrick's discussion around the throat chakra, I was part of a core fascia event. It was a training. I was asked to be a model for the trainees, and spent 5 days on the table having the experience of my life. And indeed, on the 4th day, the work was all literally in my face. I changed. It's almost like the practitioner wiped the third eye clean. I could see clearly for the first time. I breathed differently, and literally my hair curled.
Oh wow!
Literally.
Which system was that in? Was it Myofascial Congress or John Barr?
It was called Core Body Work. It's a fellow named Noah Karish who devised it. It's a concentrated down from Rolfing 10 sessions to 5 sessions.
Okay, yeah.
And very intense, and not for the faint of heart, but neither is Rolfing. But he was finding that his clients weren't assiduous in the 10 sessions. They were giving up before the end. So he intensified it and devised this 5 basically star system.
I had
the core.
I had better results getting an abridged version of 3-session version of Tom Meyer's work rather than the whole 12 of Tom Meyer's work. He was Ida Ross, you know, he's continuing her work. So yeah, I totally get that.
And then when you go and you have that vibration that is only you, the same as Eric was saying about salacia, which is the sexuality that is only you, but the voice is only you, the idioms, the words that you use, your expression, that all of that is artistic in an everyday sense, like we all have had. I have a different language for what Eric does in his wheels. I have medicine wheels, and there's a whole medicine wheel of men's orgasms. There's a whole medicine wheel of women's orgasms in all the directions, so a different type. And we just have different ways of expression, but language begets reality, and that's how we can create here a new reality for what needs to come. The bridge between the digital at the one side, and then the other side, we want to have an embodied experience of the awakening. How are we going to cross that bridge? And that would be the question I would ask to you, Eric, if you're paying attention. How, like in the 12 signs and the awakening, what would be the one thing that we could all do, regardless of what the sign is, to like plug into not the digital aspect, plug out of that and plug into our embodied inspiration and creativity? And where would we find that in the chart? Like, how would we look for that on the whole sign charts or in our individual charts? Do you have a map?
There's a lot of questions in that one question, but I think that part of the challenge is staying embodied in the digital. If you think of it as a waking dream, as a lucid dream that we're in, which is what this is, a lucid dream. It's so weird. You all look like you're dreaming, and maybe, you know, a lot of people write to me and tell me they dream about me.
Patrick.
What do we got there?
All right.
Patrick's
His
slowly
armpit.
undressing.
All right.
Yeah,
He's
he's
getting
going to
embodied
demonstrate
with
being
us.
embodied in the
Getting
digital.
embodied, yeah.
Naked man. Here you
Look
go.
behind me.
What's that? Digitally smell your armpit. Is staying embodied all the time in what you're doing. There are different, but the problem with digital is that most people are not conscious of what they're doing. They're not. They go out of their awareness of themselves and what they're doing. So I think it's a matter of a Zen thing of keeping self-awareness on all the time, especially in online environments, and not having them, not cutting off this whole experience that we're having. Has anybody seen the film Waking Life?
I saw part of it. When you first mentioned it not that long ago, I think I got through half of it.
I see. Okay, that's not a good review. If it's a better review, there's no film I've seen more times. I've probably seen it
Yeah.
15 times, and it's still great. It's still totally trustworthy, and Linklater's brilliant, and likes to leave things open ended. But I've started to understand that film as being, I think it comes out in '99 or 2000, as being a metaphor of the digital environment that he felt coming. That because we are moving from dream space to dream. That's the protagonist is in a dream he can't wake up from, basically, played by Wiley Wiggins, and so he can't wake up. He keeps waking up, but he wakes up and he's still in the dream, and then the digital clock is making all funny shapes, and the light switches still don't work. He can't get the light switches to work. And he's going from false awakening to false awakening. And I think this is a metaphor for the digital realm. Worth seeing. I would invite you all back to talk about it.
Diana had her hand up too.
Let's see. This is like what's the game? The Farmer in the Dell? Out of the peanut gallery. Got to unmute you, Del Dare.
Is that better? Okay. One of the things that I think a lot of people here have mentioned is the feeling of disconnect, especially with the younger generation, that they don't know how to interact and that they almost seem zombified. And to not just say, every generation says the next generation says, oh, those idiots, but in some respects, it's by design, because the technology that we have, what we're all using right now, whether it's our cell phones or laptops or computers, they all emit blue light, and not good blue light. And there's a lot of people who feel that is by design. They could have made computer screens in a variety of ways, but they chose to make TVs and computer screens that have predominantly blue light, which does affect the optic nerve. It affects your dopamine receptors, and it can cause you to become addicted to tech. It can cause you to have very low naturally producing dopamine, so that you actually have to endlessly scroll because you're getting a dopamine hit every time you stay on that phone. And it causes an addiction to the phone, which is what, it's great. It's like a cigarette. They want it to be addictive, so you keep smoking. Well, they want you to be addicted to your tech devices. So I think it's a double-edged sword. The technology is good, but I think people need to learn to be mindful to limit the amount of exposure they have to it. And also, and I'm not doing it right now, so shame on me, but at night to put the twilight filters on your phones and to wear your glasses with blue blockers at night, because it really does have an effect on your metabolism, and your circadian rhythm, and even your mitochondrial production and the health of the mitochondria. And there's a guy out there, I almost hate to mention him because he can be really, well, how would you say, brusque? That would be a polite term, maybe. His name is Jack Cruz, and he's a neurosurgeon. He's quite a brilliant neurosurgeon. He's a little narcissistic, as most surgeons are, but he is brilliant. I do think he really is. And I see you nodding your head, Patrick. But he has pioneered the fact that there are opsin receptors in the brain and also even in your skin. And it's very vital to get out in natural sunlight and to get out from incandescent bulbs. Not incandescent, I'm sorry, fluorescent bulbs. They do make a more full spectrum bulbs that you can buy to put in your house that will mimic daylight, but it doesn't replace it. And part of his philosophy is that you should witness the sunrise every morning as much as you can, natural light without your glasses on, and also the sunset, and not to have artificial blue light after dusk, which is hard for most people to do.
Yes, it's your if you're a digital artist, it's very, very hard to do.
Very hard.
Everything I do winds up on the
Right.
computer. If
I
I
mean, you
write
can,
music, it ends up on the computer. If I take photographs, it ends up
right.
on the
I
computer.
mean,
If I
you can
write,
mitigate it. You can mitigate it by wearing blue blocker glasses and also putting, like, especially on your phone, putting on a twilight setting. It's not just, it goes beyond the setting on your phone that will eliminate it. It's an actual app you can use. It's called Twilight, and it will make it very dark red at night, but it'll help. I mean, it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. You can't get away from, especially if you work in the medium, away from it, but it helps. It does help.
Thank you for reminding me to put on my blue light blockers.
and you
Yeah.
wear those over your glasses.
Oh, yep. Yep. They have them in varying.
Yeah, or you can get them prescription.
You can get them in prescription.
I didn't want to go to like Raw Optics, which I heard about through Jack Cruz actually first.
Mhm.
They're hella expensive. So I actually, there's a company called Block Blue Light.
Mhm.
They actually provide the spectrum differences on their website of how much of the blue and green spectrum that it blocks, which
Right.
I thought was nice. And these were less than $100. And I actually had dreams about it too. Like, hey, you can stop scrolling
Right.
after sun. Yeah, because it's
Well,
just,
after a point of time too, if you over supplement with something like particularly dopamine receptors, your
yeah.
body doesn't produce it anymore on its own because it says why should it? It's getting it from another source, so you downregulate your own production of dopamine, and then you see all
How do
these
you,
kids,
by doing what, Diana?
by overdosing on tech, getting lots of blue light directly in your retinal pathways.
Oh, it creates dopamine?
Yes, it actually substitutes dopamine, like the equivalent of dopamine hit for that your brain would normally manufacture. Yes, and then it inhibits your own natural production of dopamine.
So it becomes like you don't get it through a creative process. You just get it through
That's where you see people just mindlessly scrolling.
growing and learning. You get it through seeing a booty on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, and it keeps you on it.
Or like, it's wild.
And I mean, now, I mean, it's not so much our generation, but now you have kids that, I mean, when I grew up, there was no such thing. So you went out and you played until the sun went down, and if you sat in front of the TV, it wasn't for all day. But now we have kids that from the moment, they get an iPad, their parents stick that in their hands, and then they give them a cell phone and they're constantly on their phones. So between the TV, the computer, and the phones, there's almost never a time that they're not looking at
Man.
this type of device. And I mean, everyone's worried about the EMFs. That's not great either. That's terrible. But the blue light is just as addictive, and the manufacturers know it. There is a computer company out there called Daylight Computer Company, and they manufacture a computer that I don't think it comes in colors. I think it almost looks like a Kindle, but it does not have any blue light in it. And I ordered one. I don't have one yet, so I can't comment on it. But the reviews are very positive. It doesn't emit any blue light, and you can also use it in daylight because of the way the screen's made, like a Kindle. You don't have that glare. So that's something to look into too.
So there's like a mechanical process of addiction created just by a light hitting.
The light being emitted from the computer screens and the phone screens.
And then the subject matter of the news, et cetera, et cetera. You literally have people that are being spoon-fed addictions
Yes.
to the subject matter through the medium of blue light, which is crazy.
I mean, why
That's
do
the
you think,
medium is the message. That's the medium is the message. That's the whole concept.
False
why do you
light.
think
The
why do you think
technology.
they replaced all the incandescent lights with fluorescent? It wasn't necessarily to save the environment.
Yeah, I switched back. I realized it was a scam, and plus, you can't really find normal light bulbs, and you got to get them on Amazon. So, my various lamps. I need a brighter one. I had to replace the fluorescent one there, but hardly ever use the strip lighting in here.
Yeah,
I much prefer like I call it fish tank lighting.
yeah. Well, I mean, macular degeneration has increased dramatically, and we're all told to wear our sunglasses and slather on sunscreen, and
Right, yeah.
sunscreens are toxic.
Yeah.
I mean, now if you're in the Arctic Circle or you're out on the water, yes, you need to wear sunglasses. You'll fry your eyeballs. But just normally speaking, to go outside on a sunny day, don't stare directly at the sun, but you shouldn't have to wear sunglasses. But
I found it was easier to not wear them driving in the summer because in the winter the roads are so white and there's so much glare.
right, I mean, with snow glare, things like that, there's some you can't not wear them then. But there's people that have transition lenses, so they're basically wearing sunglasses all the time, whether anything or not.
Yep. And if you want to be cool, you wear them at night.
Yeah. Hey, it's always good to look cool. So that's all I need to say.
All right. Well, this has been highly informative. I've taken a lot of notes here. See, this is my notes. I've taken them around, written them around an astrological chart. And the chart is for oh, it's for the Chiron. No, it's not. It's for what heavens? What chart is this? It's for Venus square Folus. Venus square Folus. So it's Venus setting off the whole Salacia Hunger Game thing. Okay, we'll do this again soon. I wonder if there's a list of people who responded, but you're all on the awakening list. So let's get together again soon. The spring reading is coming. Please buy it. Please send me subscribers. Please subscribe. I'm an open secret. I remain an open secret. I'm not Sam Bailey. 1,000 new subscribers a day on YouTube. So I could handle it, but thank you for your patronage and showing up tonight.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts before we log off? Nope. And to all of you who didn't say anything, hello,
Well,
wherever you
say I love you all.
Oh, thank you. All right, good. And you were unmuted. How did you do that? Oh, you did it yourself. Good. All right.
Night, everyone.
Good. All right. I hate to push the button. Tell me when I should, though.
Go ahead.